G'day gang, and welcome back to Lunch for Louie. And this week I was doing what I've done must be 1,000 times. I was making a Vegemite toastie. They're simple: bread, cheese, Vegemite. But it did get me thinking, could I make the ultimate Vegemite toastie? So to start off, we're going to be making our own American cheese infused with Vegemite. So grab yourself 2 tablespoons of water, and to that we're adding a tablespoon of powdered gelatin. Stir to combine until it starts to resemble gelatin. Then grab yourself a pot, and to that we are adding 1 1/4 cups of whole milk. Bringing that up to a boil before adding our gelatin. Plop that in and stir to combine. The gelatin will start to break down and absorb itself into the hot milk. Then it is time to add whatever you are infusing into your cheese in. I'm going with Vegemite, but you could make tomato sauce cheese, or strawberry jam cheese, or bleach cheese. Okay, please do not make bleach cheese. Bringing your pot back over onto medium-low heat and stirring until the gelatin and your Vegemite is fully broken down. Now it is time to add our cheese to our cheese. Here I've got a blender with 500 grams of mozzarella and 180 grams of cheddar. Fight with your lid until, come on, there we go, and blitz until pebbly. To this we are adding 2 tablespoons of whole powdered milk, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Blitz that briefly together to combine before grabbing your wet ingredients and streaming it into our cheese. Blitzing until the whole thing comes together in a big mess of gooey cheese substance. Then grab yourself a container that you think will make a good cheese mold. Grease it up and pour in our goo, because then it's going to the fridge overnight or until fully set. With all this effort going into our cheese, we might as well do the same thing for our bread. So into 355 milliliters of lukewarm milk, we are adding 7 grams of active dry yeast. To this we are adding 3 tablespoons or 43 grams of melted butter, 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of kosher salt, 1/3 cup or 67 grams of granulated sugar, and an egg. After all this wet stuff is mixed together, we'll go in with 5 cups or 625 grams of all-purpose flour. Mixing on high for 7 to 8 minutes or until your dough is happy withstanding a strong tug. Then onto a lightly floured work surface to shape into a taut bowl before plopping into a greased bowl to rest on the counter for 1.5 to 2 hours. And we're back, and your dough should have doubled in size and looked something like this. Grease up your bread pan and plop your dough out into a well-floured work surface. We're then pushing the dough down with our fingertips, making it into a big round disc. From here we'll get the size of our bread pan, fold in the edges of the dough before lifting and folding it over onto itself, repeating until we end up with a layered tube. Plop your tube into your greased bread pan and cover, because we're going to let this thing rise for a further 30 minutes. 30 minutes later and your dough should look something like this, and your oven should be preheated to 400 Fahrenheit or 200 Celsius. Brush your dough down with some melted butter before popping in that hot oven for 10 minutes, then reducing the heat of the oven to 350 Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Bake for a further 15 to 20 minutes or until your bread looks something like this. Now, if you remember back far enough, we're actually doing this to make a toasted sandwich. So cut yourself 2 slices of your bread, nice and thick. Layer on some of that American Vegemite cheese we made for some reason. Butter up your bread and get it onto a waiting hot pan. Now, because our bread is so thick, if we're a chance to melt this cheese, we're going to need to cover it while we cook. Cooking until brown on both sides and our cheese is nice and melted. With all that done, it is finally time to cut into this thing and get a taste. So we'll do a little cross section here, and we've got a nice little cheese pull there. Now you may be wondering, for a day and a half of work, was this worth it? and this thing was really good. I think I went a little wrong adding the cheddar cheese in with the mozzarella. I think I could have just gone full mozzarella. I also could have added more Vegemite. It was more of a subtle Vegemite taste. So, was it worth it? No. Just make a regular grilled cheese.